good friend, longtime friend, DelRoy Taylor, who passed away last Saturday due to lingering effects of cancer and so forth. He was a great man, and he never complained about I never heard him complain about his own personal health situation. He was always thoughtful of others' situations, but never talked about his own. In fact, as bad as it was, I was over at his house a few weeks ago, and it was always, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. That was his attitude. Excellent. He was born in Colonia de Blan, Mexico, Chihuahua, Mexico, in, let's see, I don't see the year here, but he was 87. He didn't look it that much. I remember it wasn't too long ago, he's out picking up trash along the highway with us. There were some miraculous events surrounding his early childhood, where his mother, through her faith and positive action, was able to virtually save his life by moving him from Colonia de Blan to El Paso, where he grew up, went to high school, and after college moved back and had a 40-year career with State Farm Insurance as one of their top salesmen there in El Paso, Texas. Upon retirement, he moved here to be closer to family, moved to Draper, where his membership in Rotary transferred to the Draper Riverton Rotary Club, and now a member of the South Valley Rotary Club. He was also a member of the Sons of Utah Pioneers. They're in the Porter Rockwell chapter, which services the south end of the valley. Very active member in both. We're grateful for his service, his example that he set for us. He was actually the president of the Rotary Club one time in El Paso. So great man, we honor him, we revere him. We're grateful for his family. He has a great family. His wife Joyce certainly misses him. We will miss her at some of the activities where she accompanied him, drove him. May God bless the family and grant them peace and the ability to move on.
Oh God, as a Rotary Club, we acknowledge that we all come to Thee in different ways, different types of worship and different anticipations relative to how Thou mayest bless us. At this time, as we contemplate DelRoy, the great Rotarian that he has been, we acknowledge that he knew how to serve. We pray that we, likewise, will serve. We recognize that in order to do the wonderful things that our club has done and will continue to do, we need other Rotarians like DelRoy. Please bless us to that end, that others will join us, that others will find the need to serve, to bless humanity. In that DelRoy was a Christian, and I likewise, we close this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. May I add? Yes. I should have mentioned this. DelRoy was a Paul Harris Fellow.
Yes.
And I believe, I don't have the records, but I believe he was a Paul Harris Society member also. Always generous and contributed to, when we asked for funds for the scholarship program, he was always one of the first to assist.
Thank you, Tim. So everyone take your seat, and we'll now let Sam take advantage of that prayer.
Your bell.
Oh, thank you, Sam. And we ring him on.
Okay, after that, DelRoy was always willing to donate. However, Mr. President, did you produce this Rotary Valley Rotary Club brochure?
Oh, I did.
You did. Well, you need to make sure that every Rotarian in this room gets this, and they get an application for a new Rotarian in there. So you'll need to make sure that that happens. So each one of you, make sure you get one of these. Thank you. I have a very special envelope here. How much am I bid for this envelope? You don't know.
For that. Before that, he was a trainer
Is that good?
with
Perfect.
Bill
All right.
Bell for about 50 years or so. Spencer Shakers is a management consulting for behavioral consultants. So then it helps the high-end executives to learn how to manage people and learn about themselves also. I've been to numerous workshops for him, with him, that he's presented and learned lots. Two special things about him: that one, he helps pay the rent in my office. He shares an office space, but the best of all is he's my cousin. So there's some nepotism there. So we're proud and glad to have him here with us.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Do I need to use that? I think. Do I need to use the microphone? If I can work without it, it's easier for me than to do this. But if you're...
It's so nice to hear you.
It is better? Is that better for you? Okay. I will do my best. Thank you, Eric, for that generous introduction, and it's fun to be with you again. I think I spoke to this group a couple years ago, was it?
Yes.
And so the fact that I got somewhat requested to come back, I thought that was really good stuff. So as you're sitting here, and I'm contemplating what I'm going to spend time with you on, I want to make sure I've got a timing. Do you guys wrap right at 1 o'clock? Is that the goal? Okay, got it. So I'll keep track of that, and I've got a clock up here to make sure it's there. You know, in my line of work, I often refer to myself as the executive's therapist, because many times I'm the one that's sitting across the table from the CEO as he or she is bemoaning the challenges they're facing of growing their business or retaining their business or merging their business or going into emerging markets, whatever the case may be. And many executives don't have what we call a padded cell. That's the person they can go to, and I guess in the finest of moments, they can say, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing right now. I'm lost. I'm trying everything I can do, but it doesn't seem like we're moving the proverbial needle. I need to. So as a behavioralist, my job is to take a look at understanding, first of all, does the organization have a strategy? And some organizations, their strategy is have no strategy. Let's just kind of go with where the road is going to take us. We don't advocate that. Alice in Wonderland taught us that story, that it depends on where you're going to go, you need to have some direction. But then we recognize that many organizations, in spite of the fact that they have a really good product, and they have a defined strategy, oftentimes just cannot execute it. And often it comes back to those who are leading. So we are an executive leadership organization. All of our clients are CEOs or chairmen of boards. Everything from startup companies to, we coach now 3 Fortune 100 companies that we're involved with. And it doesn't matter how small or how large the organization is, the challenges are the same. The one I'm going to spend some time with you about is understanding this concept of the millennials. Who are those guys? Who are those guys? And I'm going to start with taking you back to a song. And these are lyrics. And there's an extra $5 in the bucket if you can sing the whole song for me. Some of you are old enough to remember a show called Bye Bye Birdie. Do you remember this? Back in 1960. And actually it was produced in 1960, but it was referencing 1958. And Birdie actually was a famous teenage icon who was loosely referenced as Elvis Presley, as he was being conscripted to go into the military. Well, in the show, it's talking about the swoon of kids loving Conrad Birdie, and he was the Michael Jackson of the world. There's a famous song that's sung in this one, and this is only part of the lyrics. Kids, I don't know what's wrong with these kids today. Kids, I don't understand anything they say. Kids, they are disobedient, disrespectful oafs, noisy, lazy, sloppy, lazy loafers. And while we're on the subject, kids, who can talk, you can talk until your face is blue. Kids, but they still just do what they want to do. Why can't they be like we were, perfect in every way? What's the matter with kids today? I don't know. Have those lyrics ever found their way into your minds as you're watching?
Paul Lynde.
It was. Paul Lynde. Extra $5 in the hat for you. Yeah, it was Paul Lynde. And you as business leaders and owners, you no doubt, as you have raised either your family or you have had the opportunity to lead and bring kids into your organizations, you may have just scratched your head some days going, kids, what's going on here? In this day we've got social media that is completely dominating their lives. You've got kids that have an entitlement property about them that feels like they should get whatever they want. They would like to be vice president of the organization by next week. Thank you very much. That would be great. So what's wrong with these kids? Well, in 1960, my parents were saying this about me. What's wrong with you? And so now here I am, a parent of 3 grown kids, and I'm going, kids, what's wrong with you? So let's take a look at this population. How many of you have got millennials in your life? Of some way, shape, or form. Either you got them working for you, or you got grandkids, you got kids. All right, here we go. Let's find out who these people are. Are you one of them? Awesome. It's even better. We'll get to you so you can be in your own defense. Whenever I say you don't agree with, you raise your hand and go, I'm Boulder Dash.
I'm starting to get offended.
Okay.
You gotta be careful.
We're here to appreciate you so you can correct and add to. Is that okay? All right, so here we go. Let's just kind of take a look at what we classify as the various generations. And what's kind of cool is we've got a representation, I think, of every generation in this list right now, potentially. The traditionalists are 1920 to 1942. So they kind of copied out just about the end of World War II is when the traditionalists, we say, are out. Take a look at in 2015, they represented 3% of the workforce. Now we take a look by 2020, they'll be less than 1% of the workforce, you'll see. The baby boomers, that's me. Anybody else a baby boomer? Go booms, here we go. 1943 to 1960, that's when our parents were really busy making us. They were having lots of fun times bringing lots of kids into the world. They represented in 2015 31% of the workforce. Notice how precipitously it starts to drop off by 2020. Less than 22%. That number is dropping faster than this particular this indicator is. I was just at a meeting 2 weeks ago, and they think it's going to be somewhere around 17% because more and more baby boomers are leaving the workforce. This is a function of many of them are getting large buyouts. They have stock. They can cash in. Many of them have been involved in startups that have made a lot of money, and they're just gravitating out of what we consider to be the full-time workforce. Their money is being spent in the economy, so you keep spending, okay? Don't quit working. That's good. Then here's Generation X, and Generation X is 61 to 1979. This is a very interesting population. Look that it was only 21% of the workforce in 2015, and it will drop to 20% in 2020. By sheer numbers, Generation X is much, much smaller than the baby boomers, by about 10 million. This is an interesting phenomenon because does anybody know why that generation is smaller than the boomers? Any idea why all of a sudden there was a drop in number of kids born in those years? What was that? 1960. Well, we forgot to have kids in 60, right? Could have been. Abortion had something to do with it. It's as simple as this: the pill. It was not until 1973 that women by law could have access to contraception without their husband's signature. It was in 1973 that women could go in and get contraception and they could control their own destiny. And that changed the world. Because up until that point, women felt like their role was to be at home. They didn't have opportunity in the workplace. They were kind of add-on. Please forgive us all women for being so naive. But when that happened, it's when women said, I don't have to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. I don't have to do that anymore. And by the way, I don't need that lug called my husband any longer. So you will see in that generation a much higher decrease in number of children, and divorces went way up. Because women said, I don't have to be beholden to you anymore. I can be my own person. Now, Generation Y, they came back on, and the Generation Y are the children of the baby boomers, right? And my generation of doing that. Look at how large they are. In 2015, they were 45% of the marketplace. In 2020, they will be half of the marketplace. Will be baby boomers, will be millennials. They are going to be running the organizations starting in 2020, and you can see this now. I made mention, I have an opportunity to speak to the Young Presidents organizations. And have any of you ever been affiliated with them before? YPO? In order to be in it, you have to have, they've changed this number. Used to be you had to have a net worth of $1 million in your business that you self-generated. It could not be by virtue of hand down from a family member to you. You had to be involved. They've now raised that. It's a $5 million minimum that you are of net worth building your own business. So it's a little bit of an elite group of people. My gosh, the last one I went to, I think more than 40% of the room was all millennials that are in the room. Young kids who have done some amazing inventive things and have made themselves a ton of money. Now, Generation Z, that's 2001 to today. They're pretty small. They're the little tykes that are coming up right behind them. We don't know what we're going to call them. They have to get their own name underneath them to see how different they're going to be. But certainly, millennials are going to do a huge shaping of what they are. My daughter has a little boy who is now 18 months. I'm watching her as she is grooming him as a mother and her husband as a father, of what they pay attention to, because that's where kids learn what's important, what's rewarded, what's recognized. Okay, so there we are. There's the breakout of what we've got. But let's take a look and let's have some conversation from you. So let's take a look at what do you know, or what do we perceive we know about millennials? And since we have one in the room, we'll check and see if this is true or not.
That's technically two. I'm 82.
There we go. We got two of you.
They kind of created a subset recently.
They did, didn't they? They moved that line a little bit, didn't they? Just a little bit. Okay, well, for the purpose of this, you want to join in? Okay. So without you two yet, let the rest of us talk for a second. What do we know or perceive we know about this generation? What do you got?
They don't believe anything we think.
They don't believe anything you think. They just don't.
Buy that.
The first rebuttal is now occurring. Okay?
Explain that for 1 second.
Please.
I mean, my grandchildren and I continually argue about politics or money or anything. This
Right.
is what it is. And she sat me down, we were talking, and I said, Christina, what do you believe? And she says, we don't believe anybody that born before 65. I said, you're all idiots.
How old is she?
24 probably.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very helpful for her to straighten me out.
Yeah, just thank you, and I love you too, honey.
Conversation with you again.
All right, so maybe the perception is they don't believe you, anything, a word you say. Kids, what's wrong with them today? Anything else you got? About millennials you've heard, please. They don't believe in capitalism the way we do. That is, there is some projection about that, and it's changing a little bit because they're now recognizing if they're going to run their companies, they have to have capital to work. And this is particularly in the high-tech business. You watch guys who are in startups, they come in altruistically, and then again they go, oh, wait a minute. There is a cost to running a business, isn't there? And sometimes those costs you can't capture all the time. So it depends on where they are in the marketplace.
And now that I've paid the cost, I don't want everybody to have what I have because I've paid the cost.
There you go.
To get it.
It changes, doesn't it? Anything else you've heard about millennials? Yeah.
Well, it's very obvious that technologically they're just leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else before.
Yeah. That's one thing. They grew up in the technology world. it was in their fingertips. How many of you have observed little kids with cell phones or iPads, and they know how to swipe that thing better than anybody I know? Yeah, they got it down. They got it. So technology is their best friend. Anything else you know about them? Yeah.
I would say, you mentioned it, they want it now, but they
Yeah.
don't want to feel the pain.
Yeah.
They don't want to put the work.
The immediacy of it. Right. Why is that? Why do they want it right now? Yeah, Eric?
I think also it's part of the technology, you always got it instantly right there.
Yeah.
Anything you have a question, it's right there. I used to go to the encyclopedia or whatever to do your reports. Now you got it there.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
In fact, recently, my son who's at Utah State, he had to write a paper, and he was required that he did annotation that was not from the internet for all of his research. He had to cite actual book and reference of where it was. Because so easily, to Eric's point, you just type it in and there you've got all the information. And by the way, do I rely upon that? You bet I do. Wikipedia is my very, very best friend, right? I figure out what that's about and I try to jump into it. So yeah. Anything else?
One other thing I found out, I worked at TED Talks as a volunteer.
Did you? Yeah.
I was surrounded by millennials. I was a really old
Yeah.
guy. The women, the girls were harder workers than the guys. The
Yeah.
guys were slackers.
Yeah.
The ladies, they were hard workers. They formed teams. They got it done.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We're noticing in millennials, from a gender perspective, women tend to show more achievement desire than men do in the millennials. They're willing to stay out a little bit longer. They tend to be a lot more creative. And women don't tend to expect on their own laurels. They have to earn a little bit more. This is the same true as we'll find in minorities. We're interviewing African Americans. Generally, 80% of your African Americans will say, I am aware of the fact I have to work harder beside my Caucasian counterparts to just prove myself. Now, they're not going to blame us on that, but they're saying it's just the way it is. Women will feel the same way. We also are great because we have more and more women CEOs that are coming to the marketplace. And they are sharp, and they are organized, and they're much more inclusive. The good old boy network of most CEO rooms that we've had for years, that's gone away because the women don't like it. And they say it's not going to work that way. We're going to make it a much more open thing. So we're finding some differences about that to make it happen. Okay, well, that's kind of what we know about them. Let me ask this. What do you value? What's important to you?
About the millennials?
Just in life. What about your generation? What were our values? Those of us who grew up as baby boomers, what were we taught?
Well, I think to a great degree I learned it from my father's generation, the greatest generation. But value of hard work.
Yeah.
Putting time in and working hard and earning and sweating and whatever.
Traditionalists mainly is what you're talking about, the greatest generation. It starts in 1920, but we could go back probably the turn of the century just about. Just think of it. They had known, the traditionalists, either they were the product just after World War I, right? And so their parents lived through World War I. Some of them lived in World War I. And then they also were participants in World War II. And remember, World War I was the war of all wars. It was to end all of it. And here they come back, just 20 years later, and they're back at war again. So the traditionalists learned, and then you add in there this little thing that was huge called the Depression, which just for the traditionalist, it just was a stark reality that as much as we lived in a brave new world, a country that had opportunity like none before, that all could come crashing down like this. And so the traditionalists learned, you clear your plate, young man. You don't go away leaving food on the table there, because we know there are people that are starving. We used to make fun of that, going, well, send it to them, Dad, because I can't stand it. But for him, it was real. So they came from much more of a scarcity mentality, and so certainty was really important. And that's what I was raised with as you, from a father and mother who were very traditionalist. You get a good job, you stay with that job, and you give it your best. And you don't push up against the authority, because they're there to take care of you. Now, the baby boomers came along, and what's the values that we got?
I think we have to go back one more step. We were 100, I
certainly was a lot more of an up-down relationship.
The reason we had, I mean, I go back to my kids, we had 6 kids, but,
Yeah,
you know, you had particular jobs and your worth was your worth.
yeah,
Like today, I look at my grandkids and they have a lot of worth just being cute.
exactly. That's all that matters.
Dancing or whatever they want to do, but, you know, back then, it was what you accomplished was what your worth was for them.
So,
That's pretty close.
Well, and I recall, as a baby boomer, there was a time the baby boomers were absolutely positively rejecting the status quo, Haight-Ashbury, things happening in San Francisco,
yep, Yep.
There was a lot of
the peace and love movement
yeah, a lot
of the late
pushback,
60s and 70s.
and yet we did 180 in the course of. I mean, our generation did 180. I don't know what we did because we.
Yeah, because we were so confined. I mean, because I have friends.
We're farmers.
I have, yeah, the farmers, and that's what our value was being
Got it.
workers. And now back here where we have back east and west, where we have a lot of friends our age, they were the. I have to say, as soon as we weren't our boss, we were happy.
Yeah.
Remember,
Good point.
we were the boss, and that was all.
That was all that mattered. Now, keep in mind also, we had a number of societal issues that shifted as the baby boomers came on the market. Number one, home mortgages became accessible to everybody. That was a function of baby boomers. The government-backed Fannie Mae, all of that came as a result of the government, because as we came out of the war, the government was anxious to get everybody back employed. And so they came up with the first underpinnings of what we now know as Fannie Mae mortgage companies. So people could actually buy houses. Up until that time, our parents, they were lucky if they inherited their parents' place, let alone could go buy them. They would save up, and my wife and I were talking about her parents' place, and she said, yeah, my mom and dad's first house, they paid $7,000 for it. Well, I hate to tell you how much I paid for this watch. I'm kidding. But nonetheless, that gave new prosperity for the parents of baby boomers. And the parents of baby boomers wanted their kids to now have things that they had never had. Coming out of the Depression, they said, oh my gosh, you do not have to starve. You can get your education. By the way, it was also in the late 50s and 60s that we started putting together student loans. And the GI Bill was huge. All of a sudden, the education was not for those elect few that had money. People got into it. This is all to say that affluence started to breed a whole new way of things. Baby boomers, all of us, well, I won't say all of us, but most of us, have much more than our parents had in what we've done. Opportunities, materialistic-wise, education-wise, we were far ahead of that. Now, we were grown with this, and as a result of it, we thought the world is our charm bracelet. So as we had children, we had abundance to share with our kids, unlike our parents who did not. So that's where we came into this world of everybody gets a prize. Everybody gets an opportunity. You're special. I don't care who you are. You're just a special person. We're going to make sure you know that. And this is the advent that came along that said, okay, let's not have competition amongst teams because people go away not feeling loved and special. So everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets to play. Let's not have this competitive spirit because that's one up, one down. A lot of that started going away. And every kid came into the world thinking, I'm a wonderful, special person. Whatever I ask for, I should get. Now,
So it's your fault that we don't see capitalism the same.
that might be the case.
There you go.
So there we go. You're taking responsibility for that. It became really interesting because we noticed that baby boomer parents, which I am one of them, and I will be upfront saying, I have made these mistakes myself. During this period of time is when baby boomers started identifying the preschools they wanted their children to go to before the child was born. And now you've got in places around the world where people put their unborn babies on wait lists 5 years in advance to get them into the right school to make sure they're going to achieve. It's gone so far that we now have some baby boomer parents who still believe their children are so advanced that they will go to the child's employment and demand their child be given a promotion or a raise. And you think to yourself, really, when are you going to let go? But this is their child. They're special to make that happen. Yeah.
You wouldn't do that if it didn't work.
It worked somewhere, didn't it?
The idea of preschool, good schools, everything.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that. You would spend that kind of money and time if it didn't work.
So one of my clients who's an HR vice president, he was telling me the story a year ago, how an individual, he got a phone call, and it was the parent of one of their engineers. And she demanded to have an audience with him because her son had been there a year and he'd not been promoted. And she was coming to find out what was going on. And he said, I brought her in, and I said, let me just invite you to, this is not school any longer. This is a meritocracy, and albeit your son is doing looks like great work, he is like everybody else. No, he is not. Do you not know he comes from a special place? Yeah, we all come from a special place. So it's amazing how we get so wrapped up around that piece. Okay. So we have, which is interesting, is that we are noticing that the millennials, please correct me if you're wrong, across the board, because they have been told so often how special they are and they can win at everything, that as soon as they start meeting into life, that is not validated. They're hitting their hard, cold reality. I don't get promoted just because I'm cute or because I come from the right name, but because I'm just normal, I'm just average. We're noticing that we're seeing a higher morale problem with millennials than we've ever seen before. Higher depression, higher suicide rates amongst this generation than anyone before, because they are addicted to, I need to have a constant verification. So let's jump a step further, because we're going to run out of time, on technology, what's happened there for millennials. You said it earlier, we are connected in what we call the Amazon effect. Point, click, and it shows up at your door. You don't have to do much of anything else. One of my neighbors is 92 years of age, and she is now confined at home. And I went to see her the other day, and I said, how are you doing, Rosemary? And she says, well, I had my stair chair put in my house, so she has a stair chair that goes up to her bedroom. She goes, well, by golly, you should see what I'm buying on Amazon. And she says, Dan, you can buy anything. And it all just shows up in 24 hours. So I said, okay, Rosemary, we're going to take away your credit card because you're going to be in trouble as you go. Now, what happens is that we take a look at technology, and we are wired for relationship as human beings. And in one respect, technology has really advanced that with us. You know, how much we can, it's funny, you got this letter from this guy just moments before you came in here, and you could read it right then and there. We didn't wait for the postman to deliver that. What a convenience that is. Isn't that great? You can pull it up right there. But do you know that every time your phone goes off, you have a dopamine rush? It's a chemical sensation in your body that reacts. Starts in the brain, and that reaction is somebody wants you. Somebody wants you. And so just like some people run and they'll get a dopamine fix by the adrenaline they get, when you and I get some sort of contact with somebody, our brain starts to stimulate and secrete this dopamine, which is a drug. So when kids get on texting or on Facebook or Instagram, it is a non-stop dosage of dopamine. It is like getting a fix every 2 seconds. And it only gets ratcheted up by such thing as, I like you, I don't like you. I'll befriend you, I don't befriend you. It comes into now comparing themselves. Gee, I'm not near as cute as the other girl is next to me, and I got to look cuter. But this is a fix every time we go. Now, in days of yore, some of us got our dopamine fix by alcohol. We got depressed. We didn't feel like we were good. It's where we would go. And still today, people who are drinkers will often say, I got to have a glass of wine. It's the way it kind of numbs my pain. I don't feel like I'm connected. I'll just remove myself. Well, millennials, if they're in excess, they will get so connected to being connected that the dopamine thing becomes a fix that they can't get out of. Got it? Got it? Thank you very much. Thank you. It's. Do you see his eyes light up? My son works for a company in Utah County called Disruptive Marketing, and it's all millennials. In fact, even the selection process was very interesting, which I won't go into detail of how they did this, but The president of the company, who is 38, so he's right on the edge there, he himself recognized that he had become a technology junkie. And his wife was always on him saying, you're on that phone all the time, put the phone away, do not answer that, do not get on Facebook. And he started noticing that every time he would break for a meeting, they'd be in a meeting and they'd take a quick break, what'd everybody do? Immediately their phone. There was no conversation happening here. It was always on the phone. I travel about 80% of the time. I'm amazed at how I get on the airplane and I don't see anybody reading the book or a newspaper. Everybody's either got this or their iPads. It used to be when you sat on an airplane, for me, it was a time you connected with the guy sitting next to you. Oftentimes, I'd get deals out of this. People would say, hey, I want you to come do some work for me, because we'd talk. Now we don't. We get on and go, don't talk to me. This is so much more interesting than you are, trust me. We just avoid it. So, back to my son's boss. He recognized that he was not available. He wasn't present for his wife or his kids because he was always living on this and not there. So he went to a workshop where they challenged them to put, interesting enough, an app on your phone that tracks the amount of time you're on every app on your phone. It's real-time tracking. How often are you on CNN or Facebook or Instagram? Anything you put in there, you take it. So they challenged them that you are to go for 12 weeks with not using your phone for only you can use it for is for phone call, you can do a text, and you can check your email, but you can't go to any other social media app. No Instagram, no Facebook, no Tinder, any of those things have got to go. They were challenged. So he did this, and he said, I found a whole new me. I had a relationship now with my significant others. And I realized now I was more present for people. So he came to the employees, including my son, and he brought them all in. He says, I'm going to challenge you for 12 weeks. Every Monday morning, we're going to have a class for 1 hour on learning to be present in the moment. He's invited them to read a book called Morning. Good thing I got a text. Good thing I got a text from my son that can tell me this. It's called Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Miracle Morning. Elrod, E-L-R-O-D. And this is talking about every morning starting with living a life with purpose. The president of the company offered to his employees, every paycheck, we're going to take $100 out of your paycheck, and it goes into a kitty. If you go through this 12-week program, you'll get the full $100 back you're going to get, which would be about $1,200 you're going to get, and I will double it personally if you make it through. Here's the condition. You may have 0 time on any social media. If you walk in and you show even 1 minute on Facebook, you're out. You have to show up for a meeting on Monday morning at 7 a.m. 1 minute late, you're out. Deal's off. You have to be that committed to make this happen. Now, my son, who's kind of a poor, starving student, says, I'm going to do this, Dad. So he's now into week 3. I asked him last night, how is it? He goes, you know, Dad, it was really hard to break because I am so used to wasting my time. He said, I went back before I went on it, and he said, one day I realized I had been on, do you know the social media app called Reddit? You Reddit out there? It's just a really interesting app because it's just got fascinating stories. He said, Dad, one day I was on it for 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours. His wife checked her Facebook on a Saturday, 4 hours and 20 minutes on Facebook. Just a time sink. So he's challenging his employees saying, we've got to get present in the world because we are so locked into our technology. Okay, impatience. That's not a problem for our millennials. And it's also something we can leverage. They want things right now. They're encouraging. They want to make that happen. You and I live in this place where it doesn't take much. We click a button, and the movie we want to see is right then and there. In fact, I find myself more and more going, why go to the theater when I can just bring up Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, and it's right there. On my 75-inch screen, the surround sound is much better. My wife makes better popcorn, and I get to sit there in my pajamas. That's better than going to the movie any day. So the bad news is this. Because we are so connected in, we do not connect this way. So what does that mean for us as leaders of people and as people in our organizations? I'm going to quickly send these around for you, and these are going to be 11 tips to help you as you manage your millennials. Just give you out here as you pass those out. We'll walk through them really quickly and see if it's relevant, to not only your kids, but also the people that you have working for you and your kids. Here's what we want to find out. We think that millennials are so different than the rest of us. Turns out they're not. They manifest in a little bit different way, and I know you can't read all of these, so I'm going to be real quick. The different shades, light blue represents the millennial population, Gen X, and the baby boomers. So all of us in the room are on here. Notice at the bottom, and I'll read these out to you, millennials have more of a desire than baby boomers or Gen X's to make a positive impact on an organization. They really want to drive that thing forward. They want to be involved in helping social and environmental challenges. You'll see this now more than ever before, how many millennials will be involved in nonprofit social kinds of things, whether it be the women's movement, whether it be LGBT community issues, whether it be environmental issues of climate change. Millennials will drive that faster than just about anybody will. They want to work with a diverse workforce. They want to work for an organization that's among the best in their industry. Generation X, they are particularly interested in that. Millennials have it as well. Becoming an expert in my field, they have more of a desire to become an expert in their field than their parents, the baby boomers, do. They want to know they're good. We have fed them, they're special. That's why you're saying some of the young women who are millennials, they will just kick butt, excuse the expression, because they want to be experts at what they're going to do. Interesting, they scored the lowest in managing my work-life balance. Interesting. They are not demanding that near as high as their predecessors in the Y generation or even us in the baby boomers, because they're living large. They want to take advantage of everything they've got. And companies have not made it easy for them to manage that. Many of the organizations I'm working with now, the large corporations, you go on their campuses, and they have everything but the hotel right there. They've got workout facilities. They have got on-site healthcare practices. Everything to just keep you at the office. They've got you lock, stock, and barrel. Yeah.
Do you think some of it also is because the average child per baby boomer is like half a child? And
Yes.
the average dog is like 2.5?
Sure. You're absolutely right. Yeah, their environmental circumstances.
Different stage of life.
Different stage of life, and they're not having children as early. They're postponing them down the road, and they're taking greater they're taking greater leverage of having nannies come and work for them. Millennials by far will take a nanny faster than a baby boomer would have ever done. So you're right, all those situations are in place. Notice that they're about even Steving on achieving financial security. And what I'm finding is, even as I'm interviewing people who are coming to companies, I am impressed that the first question out of their mouth is not, what's the compensation package for this job? In fact, there's sometimes I've had to say, are you interested in knowing what we're willing to compensate you for this? Well, I just figured it was probably about the norm. I'd say, what do you think the norm is? And I guarantee you, 3 out of 5 times, they compensate themselves lower than the average is. And I go, wow, that's pretty interesting, because we're willing to pay you more than that to get the job done. Okay, so let's take a look at this. You've ever got one? Here are your 11 tips. You missed one? So here's what we can do to help millennials along. And by the way, if you're any generation you've got, it works for you. They want structure.
So time is over,
Yeah.
time-wise. So,
You go. I'll just...
I just want to let you know, I'll claim this now, and we'll stick around and hear the rest of what Dan has.
Got it. Thank you. I'll take no more than 4 minutes. How about that? You're gone. Providing structure. They're going to show this enthusiasm, and they say they're not listening to you. They do want structure. How are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? Where do I need to be? They need leadership. The Generation Y before them was much more self-sufficient than the millennials are. It's because Generation Y had to be. Generation Y was latchkey children. Remember, moms didn't have to be at home anymore, so they went to work, And so they would send their kids off to school with a little key around their neck, which is the lock for the back door. And then when they came home in the afternoon, the first thing to do was call mom to go, I made it home safely. And most of them were by themselves. Generation Y, they have a little more of an attitude of going, listen, you better just figure it out on your own. Nobody was there to help me. You better figure it out. Millennials were shepherded all along the way. Do you want me to brush your teeth? Do you want me to comb your hair? Do you want me to call your boss? All that kind of stuff. So we as leaders have to teach them. We can't assume they're going to have the same discipline of understanding how to work or what values are. That is incumbent upon us as leaders, regardless of the size of your organization. Encourage the millennials' self-assuredness, can-do attitude. They are willing to take on the world. Don't mistaken their confidence as competence. They will all believe they can be the vice president overnight. And we love the initiative. They just need to learn that it takes some steps to go into them. Take advantage of the millennial comfort level with teams. They love working with teams. It's a part of a social experience for them. I won't go into detail on all that there. Listen to millennial employee. They want to be heard. As you said earlier, we were raised in a generation where kids were out of sight, out of mind. Just do what you're doing. Parents will handle all the issues. Millennials, they want to be in the conversation. We have dinner conversations around our table. My wife and I do very little talking anymore. It's all my millennial kids, and they are on it about every social issue when they're debating, and I kind of raise my hand and go, can I say, no, you're just the dad, be quiet. And on they go. Millennial employers are up for a challenge and change. We also saw that here. They want to have an impact. Oftentimes, millennials will leave a job because they say, I'm doing tasks, I don't know where it's ending up. How is this lining up with anything moving the needle? Are we having an impact out there? They want to see the results of their efforts. They're multitaskers. They have great technical skills, so leverage them. Leverage that technical expertise. Let them run the plays. Capitalize on millennials' affinity for networking. You know, whether you like it or not, Facebook is there. I am just amazed at how quickly my kids will connect with people all over the globe. And I'll say, how'd you meet them? Oh, we met them online. And they're in India or they're over in Europe. And it's been really cool, and we've learned what they're going to do over there. They're really good with that. Provide a work-life balance workplace. They don't ask for it. You might have to give it. And last but not least, have fun. My son's boss, he has made this thing so fun for my son and his kids. They're all looking forward to the end of it. As you go forth, you got kids, you got employees that are going to be in this generation. I encourage you to embrace them. They're going to do it differently, but they still need our coaching to move them forward, and you can be that help. Thank you.
Time to eat. Thank you.
It's okay. It's okay. It's more than I normally get.
I know you're used
so
to it.
I'm okay.
I know
Yeah,
you're used
it's
to that in
good.
terms of
Thank you.
presentations.
Thanks for having me here. Did that work?
I know, we're about to see.
We'll see if it works or not.
It works. Very nice. Thank you.